Did you share the link? Okay, I'm putting in an announcement. Where is it?
Okay, Joms, you can push me and Abro live with our cameras and stuff. And are we live, everybody? Joms, we're live. Amazing. Hey guys, how is everyone doing? Hope you're all good. We'll figure out this live chat now. Abro, have you posted in the announcement channel?
Yep, just did it.
Fantastic. I will drop a comment in the popular channel too. Yeah, okay. Amazing, Abro. How are you doing today?
Yeah, I'm good. I'm good. You good?
Yeah, I'm doing really well, thank you. Interesting market we have upon us right now. Yeah, very, very interesting times. The war continues to escalate and a lot of FUD all over the place. Give me a lowdown. How are you reading the market right now?
Yeah, actually, market looks slightly constructive, to be honest, this week. Of like, since the beginning of the week, showing strengths against equities. And the broader market seems to be like also picking up. We can see like hype performing super well. And I can see like few setups in the altcoin market that actually look quite interesting, to be honest. And yeah, this is my general feeling. I think we are due to for some relief rally, and on this relief rally, like few altcoins might actually outperform and deliver some good results. So this is what I'm watching. This is what I'm like seeing right now in the market. Yeah.
Yeah, amazing. Yeah, see, the main title of this live stream and the thing we've pitched this as is everyone keeps asking if the alt season is coming back or when alt season. And we've kind of pivoted our view. I don't think per se we're going to get an alt season, but I do believe we're going to get some select alts perform. But they're going to be foundational plays. These aren't alts running for the sake of alts running. These are very particular plays. And I believe a couple of days ago, we did a deep dive into why certain TradFi giants in getting into select altcoins. Should we dive into that area first?
Yeah. We can start from there. So while like everyone, so the article started like with something like while everyone panicked, institutions are quietly accumulating these tokens, and they were not BTC, not Ethereum, not the usual majors, but rather like altcoins like Uniswap, the token, the ticker was like Uni, Layer 0, the ticker 0, and MORPHO, which was quite interesting, and they were like buying like massive amounts. So that was quite interesting. And now this week we actually can see that market like kind of trying to, I can sense something, to be honest. Like, so like we can might see some outperformance. So this is what I'm thinking.
Okay, interesting. Can you tell us more about Zero and some of these other alts? What did they buy and why?
So BlackRock actually bought Uniswap because they want to use Uniswap's new infrastructure for swaps, and they want to have a stake in the governance. Because the Uniswap is essentially what was interesting, because it was a consensus that governance tokens are useless tokens essentially. So they don't accrue value. They're used to farm like holders. You use them as incentives to incentivize activity on your platform. So by and large, it was kind of a consensus that they were useless. But out of nowhere, institutions started buying these governance tokens, which kind of challenged this whole consensus. And I started thinking, okay, why they're doing it? They're useless in general. So they want to have a stake in this like protocols because they are so useful. And the problem was that the protocols themselves, they are functioning, right? So they are real businesses, generating cash flow, but none of that cash flow would flow into the token. Right? So that was the problem. So I think they see value in actually having a say in these protocols, whatever their agenda is. So that's why they might be buying these tokens to have a stake and actually influence the decision making process, in these communities. So I think that's why they're buying. But in the case of Layer Zero, I think it was not BlackRock, but what was that, like a Citadel? And
Citadel.
Citadel is one of the biggest market makers in the world. So they are like, massive. And they were buying Layer Zero, like zero tokens. So and it came shortly after they announced a new chain called Zero again. So it's probably would be competing with Solana or Hyperliquid, and they want to build an institutional grade, um, high frequency trading platform. So it's quite interesting because it can be direct competitor to Hyperliquid, and that's why it pumped, and now it's kind of holding the structure. Um, so yeah.
Okay, interesting. So that's Uniswap, that's Zero. We saw Morpho being picked up as well.
Yeah, I think it was Apollo. Yeah, I think it
Okay.
was MORPHO in a sense. It's a lending, borrowing market for real world assets like RWA, right? So it's slightly niche, I would say, at this point, but has massive potential as well because we see this tokenization of everything using crypto. And Apollo, they bought like 9% of the supply, Morpho supply, and it just pumped like crazy on the news. So Morpho is kind of competing with Aave now.
Mm.
So it's relatively an underdog. So that's why like many people are speculating, okay, if it's like direct competitor to Aave and institutions are backing it, it might have like decent upside. So there are three assets institutions were kind of interested like 2 3 weeks ago, and now like we can see like they're holding the bases and structures and trying to break out.
Okay, very interesting. So if we're trying to get this clip, the three altcoins right now that institutions are getting behind are Zero, Morpho, and Uni. Now, is the thesis as simple as, look, you've got these heavyweights getting behind them. Therefore, as retail investors, we should also consider these three assets for our shopping list, or no?
I personally not looking to buy any of these three, to be honest, because I like to buy things that I clearly understand. Like I realize like where my edge is. So Hyperliquid revenue generating protocol, I can understand the protocol super well, and I can see like where the value is, where the overvaluation is, kind of thing. Um, so I'm not maybe like maybe I can look into zero, like a Z or like layer zero, but I'm not that convinced. I have like better place in my mind, so that's why I'm like uh, I'm trying to stick to my best ideas rather than investing in second best or third best ideas. So yeah,
For sure, for sure. But of course, we do want to look to diversify beyond just our big five, right? The number
yeah,
one
yeah,
altcoin we continuously back is Hype. We think very highly of it. I would say no brainer and disclaimer to anyone who's new. Hype by far would be our pick over any other token we address on today's stream. So I would say this is more for someone who, maybe they're into hype, but they want something else too. And for whatever reason, whether that's just FOMO, whether that's anxiety, whether that's just the desire for diversification, looking at some other alts. Now, a question I have for you, Abro, is when this institutional capital flew into these assets, what happened upon that? Because we're in a down market. This is not like, BlackRock buying into Uniswap when it's surging their all-time highs, where confidence and sentiment is up. I'm pretty sure the chart went boom, up,
yeah.
down,
It
sharp,
retraced.
which in some ways shows me, you know what, that's good. These institutions aren't just here for a trade, they're getting in. Maybe it helped get people out there who shouldn't have been in the asset. But what happened to all of these charts? Did any of them hold up? Were all sold into?
Um, I think layer zero is holding up. Uniswap just retraced the entire move. Morpho is still looking good. Um, but yeah, ultimately, crypto is still kind of a macro asset class. So regardless who's buying and who is selling, still it's trading as a leveraged macro asset, especially the altcoin sector. So, you know, in a bear markets, good news, gets sold into. In bull markets, any bad news is bought up, right? So that's the classic bear market behavior. And after these announcements, they all retraced their gains, but still, like, ultimately you need to define your time frame, right? So if you want to, okay, I want more confirmation and reclaim of key levels, and after that I'll go risk on, then you should probably pay attention to this kind of price action. Okay, this is retracing, this is like consolidating and stuff like that. But if your time frame is like longer, you believe in the space, you see the trend, the broader trend, um, then it shouldn't bother you that much, in my opinion. So again, that depends, right?
Okay, that makes sense. It's very interesting. When I see this happen with Uni, with MORPHO, with Zero, I can't help but ask myself, well, which one is next? Are they now going to go over to JUP as a counter to Uniswap? Is AAVE on the agenda for some of these companies? Have we got other layer twos, etc.? What sticks out? If you were a retail investor, would you say, you know what? Platforms like Uniswap now have institutional level backing. So it's already had its push, its pullback. Long term, this is very positive. They wouldn't make a play like this. This is not a trade. This is an investment for companies like BlackRock. So would you put your capital behind something like Uni, or would you say perhaps now they scoop up something like JUP or Ray?
Yeah, I would buy something that has a revenue, right? So who is the absolute leader in its sector, and generates revenue and directs the revenue back to the token. I think that's gonna be a trend, and I think lots of TradFi investors who, like, hedge funds and stuff like that, they understand this model way better. So if you try to explain to them that Solana should have like monetary premium because it's a gas asset, blah blah blah, or you try to explain like blob fees on Ethereum, or like, oh, it's a digital oil supercomputer, like, world computer and stuff, it's harder to value that way. And I think TradFi would prefer clear, like, multiples, like, okay, 70% growth over years, and revenue, free cash flow, stuff like that. So I'm actually looking in terms of the altcoin market. I feel like the next big trend actually might be those revenue generating protocols that are undervalued, um, and they are the leaders of the category. So obviously, like, we've seen Hyperliquid, it's like, the probably the best performing in the market, and whatever is next is probably should follow Hyperliquid's model. If you are I don't know, DeFi protocol builder, make sure to follow Hyperliquid's model, because market is showing you like this is what it works. This is what works.
I hear you. I do want to push back to an extent. Like I said, I don't want this to just be by hype. Otherwise, we should just hang
Yeah,
up
I'm
this
not
phone
talking about
now.
side, by the way. Yeah.
It's the idea, and we can touch on how revenue generating protocols and the application layer is probably the big picture for us. We see application over infrastructure, especially this cycle. But ultimately, someone came to you 6 weeks ago and said BlackRock are going to go in and buy $1 billion of an altcoin. No one would have said it's Uni, right? If we went to see what would Citadel buy, if we went a month ago and said Citadel is going to buy, X million dollars of an altcoin, no one would have said, zero. Now we've seen these purchases. I guess my primary question to you is, let's say phase two, the next three assets they pick up, will they be assets like Jupe and Ray or Arb or Optimism? Assets that, like you said, there may be more governance based, or something to that degree, or that on some of these emerging sectors. What do you think?
Yeah. Um, I can see them investing in Jupe, maybe. I would even see hedge funds investing in Pump because it's infrastructure for casino. Um, then maybe something AI related, like, Tower, or which provides infrastructure for like AI agents and stuff like that. So something like that, I can see them investing. Um, yeah, like if I had to stick to three, probably JUP, like I like Pump, you know it, and maybe something like Tower, which is like infrastructure for AI agents. Yeah.
Okay, interesting. So Uni, Morpho, or Zero, worth a punt or no? Someone's got $1,000, worth putting their money in, and what kind of return are we looking at if they were to put a play in there?
Yeah, let me look at the charts, respective charts. Uni, I think
Do
is
you want to
still,
share your screen as well? Maybe you can share your screen and we can look at some charts together.
let me, yeah, sure. Okay. Can share my screen. Screen. Can you see my screen?
Yes, yes.
Yeah.
Okay, let's make that primary.
Okay, so this is the uni chart.
Are we able to make that full screen, Jones?
Okay. So as you can see, it's making higher low, higher high, higher low, higher high. It's making like higher lows, 1, 2, 3, and it's like pressing, putting pressure on. It's like moving average. So if it flips that, I can see it like it pumping like all the way to like $4.72. I think that would be a good trade in my opinion. That's like 25% in the short term because I believe BTC due to for some relief rally. So this is conditional. So it's kind of making a higher, high, low, higher, high, and the stop loss, the invalidation would be just the break of this line. And then, as you can see, the actual drawdown that you would incur would be probably like around 5-6%, right? Your invalidation, but on the upside, it's like 25%. So that's how I would play it. So I think this is what I mean. There are interesting setups across the market. Now let's look at the draw. Okay. The funding is very negative. It's something to to take into account because like when the funding is negative, that means a lot of people are positioned against the market. So any short squeeze could result in like considerable volatility. So yeah, let me just load it.
Okay, no, it's very interesting. It baffles me a little bit. If I went back 6 weeks in time, I just wouldn't have thought these three tokens would be the altcoins of these big entities' choice. It's very interesting. I didn't see that happening.
Yeah, okay, so looks good, to be honest. Zero also looks good. So this is something called a double bottom pattern. So we just have like 1, 2, and it's kind of pressing against its neckline. So if it breaks the neckline, that's generally, it breaks to the upside. And so the upside would be roughly, what, like, probably I would be looking at something like 50-60%. Yeah, somewhere to like $3.22. So yeah, this chart looks good again. That's why I was like, okay, let's cover the altcoin market because lots of altcoins, they're kind of looking good for trade. Okay, now
Okay.
let's look at MORPHO.
Morpho,
And
yeah.
this is on my watch list as well.
What is Morpho? Tell us more. You said lending markets?
Yeah, lending market for RWA.
Mm.
So it's caving up like a very niche, very nice market. And the sentiment and narrative around is kind of good. So that's way more important than fundamentals when trading. So that's what like kind of interested me. So it is one of the strongest performance as well, just like hype. If you can see, it's like hype. It's up what? Roughly 100% from the lows, which is like, it outperformed Hyperliquid because hype is up like 80% or something like that. So this is again, this is a previous resistance level. So it's like pressing against the resistance. And if it breaks again, it's probably another like 50-60% to the upside. Okay. Maybe like Kushal and Tom would be better at exact levels, but I can see like clearly that it's pressing against resistance. So like if I could draw it, so it's here. Yeah. So yeah, these are three charts.
Okay, very interesting. So we went over these three assets, not because they're Cryptonary's picks or because they're our tokens. We went over them because institutions are buying them up. I think as a whole, that's pretty good news because it shows the big picture incentive behind some of these entities when it comes to crypto. These are not trades, these are investments for the long run. Now, let's go over some of the altcoins that Cryptonary has backed over time. Let's leave Bitcoin, Ethereum, Solana, and Hype to one side, as everyone knows how we feel about those. And let's leave the meme coins as well. But if we go to Cryptonary's picks, bro, what are some of the other alts that we basically have on our watch list?
We have JUP on our is one of our picks.
JUP, Pendle, Link.
Yeah,
Let's
Pendle
take a
and
look at
Link.
some of these.
So these JUP, the charting wise, it doesn't look that good. It doesn't look that strong. I think it needs to form a bottom, but it's already making a bullish divergence here. So like, you can see like it's making a lower low here, but on the oscillate, it's making like higher low, which is a good sign and a sign of reversal. I think it will perform well. So like I'm looking at like a bunch of assets across the board and they all look like pumpy. You know what I mean? So that's why like if BTC gives a relief rally, I think assets across the board might actually print some decent returns. So JUP like kind of reversing in my opinion here. This is bullish divergence. But it's not as strong as like other assets like Hyperliquid or like I don't know, even layer zero. Yeah.
Okay.
Link on the other hand, I think I recently looked at the link as well. Like if I'm being honest, it's hard to buy this chart because it's unclear where it's going to go next, to be honest. So I'm not that, but again, it's entering this accumulation period from like 2001, 2021, 22 that we had like, two-year bear market period. So it's entering there. So the chance side might actually, just chop around there as well. So I'm not that excited about it at the moment, neither as a trade or as a hold. But obviously, Link is like DeFi won't work without Chainlink. So as a long-term investment, I think it's still very good. But in the short term, like I would be careful with this kind of price action.
Yeah. I think that's an interesting thing we have to kind of come to terms with as well. Covering altcoins like this, there's a big difference between a trade and an investment. And sometimes it's difficult when looking at the charts like this. We can't help but zoom in and say, oh, could we get a quick 30, 40% on some of these plays? And that's what we're doing here. At the same time, if we look at things from a fundamental perspective, like Link, you just said abroad, we need Link for DeFi, right?
Yeah,
It's not going
DeFi
anywhere.
wouldn't work. It's an oracle.
It's an oracle.
Yeah. The same thing with Pendle, I would say. It's not showing any strength or any bottoming pattern just yet. And to be honest, it's not showing any, I think there is no bullish divergence here as well. So again, I would be careful with the altcoins. We said repeatedly in our market updates in our live stream that like a long-term altcoin holds are not, except for something like Hype, because we've been vocal about Hype, but for other altcoins, I would just trim, okay, if you're holding anything like that at the moment. But again, as a long-term investment, so you need to define for yourself, are you a trader or long-term investor? But as a long-term investor, like Pendle is still like one of the best yield offering platforms in crypto, and everyone like MORPHO uses Pendle, Hyperliquid uses Pendle for like, but they do a bunch of strategies there. So still very good asset, but again, I wouldn't buy these charts at the moment.
Yeah, makes sense. Makes sense. I agree with this. It's funny. The goal here was to look at potential altcoins that are worth a buy, despite us not believing alt season is around the corner anytime soon. Because ultimately, for everyone watching, you need to keep an eye on macro and you have to focus on big picture. And in a volatile market like this, even holding Bitcoin is a bit of a tricky one, never mind an altcoin. But if you are going to dive in and you're going to buy some altcoins, you have to base it off of fundamentals. And when giant institutions get behind assets like Zero, MORPHO, etc., pay attention. And I think it should give some level of certainty on why not buy, right? It gives you, at least you've got backing there, especially during a bear market, because these aren't institutions top lasting assets that have been around for a couple of months. These are long-term projects. And then, of course, yes, as Abro said, stuff like Link, stuff like Pendle, these are infrastructure plays that aren't disappearing anytime soon, which is why they're on our Cryptonary picks list. A lot of people say to us, they're not running. Why don't you remove them? And these are kind of our middle of the barbell approach. You know, you have these high risk plays like meme coins and AI tokens that can get you 20, 30x. And then you have your Bitcoin and your stables that need to be in the opposite end. But having the links, and it's not a pick, but the BNBs, etc., these are assets that are going to be around for a long time and are worth buying if you want slightly, slight outperformance and that are good for diversification. I think, abroad, what would be pretty cool to do now is let's take a look at some of the major alts we have out there. And I want to play a little bit of a game with you. I want to say up or down, in the sense of like this token has a bright future versus this token is finished versus this token is probably going to move sideways. How does that sound? I'll share my screen.
Sure.
I'll go to the top list. And
Okay.
you can be brutally honest with people. We're probably going to offend a lot of people. But I think it'll be good. Let me dive in. Let me share my screen. Okay. So let's take a look. Okay. And maybe for each of these, we can go in and just give like some quick comments. So the first thing I want to address is BNB. BNB went crazy earlier in the year / end of last year, smashed through $1,000. Binance has had a lot of controversy even a couple of days ago with the Wall Street Journal claiming that, the Iranian regime are basically using BNB for, money laundering in a sense. What do we make of BNB? For me, once again, backbone of the crypto markets. I can see it smashing all-time highs again, of course. But what do you make of it? And don't compare everything to hype, bro. Pretend hype didn't exist. Pretend hype didn't exist. And then how would you feel about some of these assets? I don't want you to look at this as an opportunity cost versus hype. Because in that case, screw everything, just get behind hype. Let's imagine hype doesn't exist. Talk to me about BNB. Bright future, sideways, which means it's not going to go anywhere, but don't expect outperformance. And then we're going to look at assets that we think are finished and never coming back. So yes, BNB.
I think short term looks like good for relief rally. I just looked at the chart and it looks good. I think if BTC relief does put a relief rally, it's gonna perform well. Medium term, I think it's gonna make another low, just like we expect BTC to make another low. And in the long term, I don't see Binance going anywhere. Okay, so I think it's still like the dominant crypto exchange platform in the world, and all these what do we call it, FUD, right?
Yeah.
They are like ungrounded apparently. So Wall Street is saying, okay, DOGE is not investigating them for anything at the moment. So yeah, I think it will make an all-time high again. It has the uses. I know people who hold mid seven figures on the exchange. So, and they use Binance for their operations on day-to-day basis. So I don't see it going anywhere. So
Yeah.
long term, still good.
Yeah, and look, we're literally a 2x away from all-time high, almost to the dollar right now. I guess the question for me, where it gets tricky looking at something like BNB, now it is massive. It's not a small market cap. It's right there near the top. I think sometimes we forget that it's bigger than Sol. But my concern slash issue is, Ethereum is more than a 2x away from all-time high. Bitcoin is borderline there. Solana is miles, a three, nearly 4x away from all-time high. So when I see a 2x on the table, back to all-time high for BNB, I just don't know whether it's undervalued, overvalued, not in of itself, but in relationship to some of these other assets. But that's my short take on BNB. Like a bro, don't see it going anywhere. Haven't got a bag. Was FOMOing around here for sure. But yeah, overall, decent. Next one, a bro, XRP. This one's going to rattle some feathers. We need to clip this. So to the clippers, bro, tell me about XRP. Does it have a future or is it dead?
XRP, I don't like XRP at all. Like, it doesn't make sense to me at all, to be honest, because 50% of the tokens are allocated to insiders and they have an equity as well. So they have like a dual asset system where they have a token which is valued at what, like almost like $140 billion. 140, that's not cheap, first of all.
Yeah.
And second of all, they have a equity as well in the team. So that creates, the problem where the incentives of token holders and the team members aren't aligned. Because again, I think recently, XRP team sold XRP tokens to buy back the stock, the equity. So, which makes it like, what the hell? If you're XRP holder, you're not protected as you would be if you held like equity. So I don't see it performing well. I don't understand why it's still number 5 in like top crypto assets in the world. It doesn't have a good ecosystem. I don't see anyone who uses XRP network. So I know they have like a die-hard community there, but again, 50% of the tokens are allocated to insiders. I would be scared to hold this kind of asset.
Yeah, that's the big issue. I think the centralization of XRP is definitely a problem I see. XRP was one of the first tokens I ever bought into. I got very fortunate with XRP. I think my average entry was like 10, 15 cent. It was my first big return, but I didn't sell because everyone told me it was going to $100. So yeah, I think with XRP, it has incredible branding. I live here in London, and in Canary Wharf, they have XRP and billboards all over the place. I've never seen a more diehard community outside of meme coins, to be honest. And I think that phenomenal marketing. The issue is the centralization. As Abro said, look at the diluted value versus what's actually trading. It's very, very tricky. I think the use case as well, it's almost anti-crypto. It's crypto's anti-establishment. XRP is the opposite. XRP is please establishment embrace me. So I think if you're hardcore crypto, the fundamentals of XRP, they're not appealing. And then when you look at stable coins and these modern solutions for sending money around the world, there's just better, faster ways. And the integration just isn't nice. Platforms like Solana are too smooth. It's too easy to send USDC to people. When I first got into crypto, one of the big value props of XRP is you can send money around the world in every to anyone in a matter of seconds. And it's like, we have a solution for that issue now. So XRP Army, feel free to cry and complain and make a case. But the only thing you have going for you is your community sentiment, which I admire. And they always do well. I think, look, with all of these assets, for me personally, not all of them, I'll get onto it, but for a lot of them, I think all-time highs are inevitable again. But as we said, like Solana is further away than XRP. At all-time high, and I just think it's so much more valuable. So yeah, for me, I give BNB, I give it, if I had to go off a color chart, green being bullish and yellow being and red being red flag, I would say I give BNB yellow. XRP for me, I give it a red. I'm going to skip Solana because we all know how we feel about this, but I want to talk about Tron. Tron, I had a couple of people sign up to the inner circle last month. And it's funny, these are very wealthy people. They want the one-to-one tailored services. Two of them insisted on paying in Tron. Why was that? What's the edge with Tron? Why do people choose Tron over some of these other networks?
That's a very interesting question because we did a deep dive like back in April or May, like last year on Tron. And when I was researching Tron, it was very surprising to me that they have like so many users. And in terms of the technology itself, it's inferior to like even Ethereum or Solana, but they still use Tron as their choice for like payments and transfers and stuff like that. And I was struggling to understand why, because like Tron is super expensive to transact on, and it's kind of clunky because you don't have like major wallet supporting it, and it's not connected to like to different chains in terms of like interoperability. Like they don't have bridges there. So but despite that, like purely looking at the data, I think they dominate in stablecoin payments and transfers, and they even like Tron is like bigger than Ethereum in terms of like stablecoin payments and transfers. So they have like massive user base. They generate massive fees, and I think in terms of revenue to price ratio is like a way better value than Ethereum and Solana. So to compare with them, like Ethereum's PE ratio would be something like 100x to 100x. Meanwhile, Tron's PE ratio, I don't know the updated numbers, but at the time when we did research, it was like 8x, or 9x, which says like it's like very cheap compared to other assets. But the only thing I didn't like, I always try to judge by looking at the user experience, how like the potential adoption as a platform, network effects and stuff like that. It was very difficult to use it. Okay. And look at the chart. The chart is just insane. Like it's like a S&P 500 on leverage,
Yeah, it's a crazy chart, isn't it? Wow.
Yeah, I think I'm bullish on Tron, to be honest. But like if I had to choose between BNB and Tron, I would choose, for example, Tron. Um,
Yeah, yeah, it's really interesting. One thing I will say about Tron is they have a really good marketing team. I'm not sure if the followers reflect this, but obviously XRP is massive. Everyone's heard of XRP. Binance is Binance, but I think Tron do a great job. I think Justin Sun as well. He's people used to call him the Iron Man of crypto and the Elon of crypto. So I think these guys just know marketing, and I think they have big connections, and I think there's a lot of heavyweights in there. And as I said, I'm not overly sure why. I don't know whether it's a security thing. A lot of heavyweights and people with decent money that I know seem to really like Tron. They really like Tron. So it's one of those tricky ones. I would say for me, um, I would I would probably give it for me a yellow flag once again. I can't quite put my finger on why it's so beloved, but I don't think it's going anywhere. And ultimately, if that's where the rich people are at, then who am I to say otherwise? They seem to like it a lot. And I guess some people always want to be contrarian. People always want a bit of a different, they want a different option, right? They don't want Ethereum or Solana. And I guess when they're scrolling through the charts, Tron is next up. Abroad, talk to me about this figure, Elok. I don't know much about this at all.
I don't know as well. Like sometimes CoinGecko like adds some random stuff that
Like, what
I
is
think it's a
this?
stable coin.
It's fascinating. I'm not sure how this is happening.
No, like Coin Market and CoinGecko, they list like different assets if you've noticed.
Yeah, yeah, interesting. Let me see by market cap. Let's do this again. Yeah, okay. Let's say Doge. So Doge abroad, we saw the Doge ETFs get pushed around a little while ago. Everyone loves Doge, OG meme coin. We are obviously very big fans of meme coins. We think highly of them. It's obviously had an interesting time a couple of months ago because of the ETF stuff. What do you make of Doge? Will it ever catch the mind share it had before? Or do you think it was just, right place, right time, right narrative? Do we see Doge reclaiming all-time high, or is the ceiling just too high?
Okay. I can see it making a new all-time high, but how soon? That's the question. Okay, so ultimately, I think Doge is the king, and it's an internet currency, internet like meme currency, of the internet. So I think for it to go to new all-time highs, you need another wave of this hype from like Elon Musk. Like it could happen because, for example, Twitter is planning to implement buy and sell directly on its platform, like
Yes.
X platform. So if that happens, and Elon Musk just posts a Doge pictures, for a week, I think people will be just aping directly from the mobile phone and directly from the X platform. So I think once that feature is implemented, it would become like it probably will create hype around meme coins again because like the whole internet culture is the core of meme coins, right? So it's built around internet culture. And I think if that were to happen, I can see it like running again, and I will be like, just trading it.
Yeah, similarly to you, I think Doge is the OG. Doge is the king. It's absolutely massive. I think I don't know how it captures the same level of attention as when Elon was talking about the Department of Government Efficiency.
Yeah.
It that was just too big at that time. And I don't know if we reached all-time highs around that point or it was further, like earlier. But
No, no, it didn't reach. It
yeah,
was also how it was like back in 2021.
yeah, so I think it's been so long, and I think Doge will always stick around. It will always perform. It's shown to be multi-cyclical. I think it will always be like it's number 10 right now. I think there's always going to be a top 10 to 20 asset in crypto. It's the Bitcoin of memes. But I think we have to see a huge wealth creation event slash huge liquidity flood in to see something like Doge reclaim its highs. It's very easy for a small cap meme coin to hit all-time high because we're talking, you know, $100 million market cap, $200 million market cap. We're not talking at 15 billion. So, part of me doesn't even consider Doge an altcoin. It's more just part of the meme coin narrative. But if we are to address it, there we are today. Another one I brought. Now, I would give this I'll give it a yellow flag. Once again, one I have to address, and I'm going to say in advance, I call it red flag 3 times over. ADA, bro. ADA. When I got into
Oh,
crypto, the two hardest calls were XRP and ADA. And yeah, what do you make of this thing? For me, it's a no-go. I don't like the guy behind it, Charles Hoskinson. Seems like he's going a bit crazy as well on YouTube and Twitter. What do you make of ADA? I just don't think it's relevant anymore. I think this is a perfect example of a dino coin. The people holding are the people who probably forgot about their Coinbase logins from 2021 and maybe sooner. I think this thing's never coming back, in my opinion. It's just not the one. What do you think?
yeah. Yeah, I used to be a big fan of ADA because of their scientific approach. So they have even like, um, you know, the they're proactive in like preventing lots of bugs. Like they have even scenarios what will happen to the network if the whole like electricity in the world just shuts down like everywhere, so no electricity around the world. So they've designed it in a way that even if that's the case, the network would still survive. Okay, so they've published a lot of papers, and a lot of papers are very highly cited. But the thing is, ultimately market decides what's valuable, market decides what to use, and they have no users. They don't have like strong applications on their network. So that's why it makes them inferior to their competitors like Solana, Ethereum, even like Avalanche.
Yeah.
So it, as a concept, it was great. Okay, but in terms of implementation, I think they failed. uh,
Mm.
so yeah, that's my
They
take.
didn't deliver on their roadmap, bro. That's one of the biggest things I've seen while building Cryptonary over the last like 6, 7 years. And a lot of these projects have phenomenal concepts and ideas. And Ada, Cardano, they had a great vision. And like you said, they had a solid project. But it all comes down to delivery. Are you going to deliver on what you tell holders? And crypto is difficult because it's hard to police communities. But if you say something's going to be released on a given month and you push it back 2, 3 times, people just lose interest fast, and they lose hope and confidence and faith in you. And if you are going to be a face of one of these chains, like, look, we've seen Vitalik out there; he's a face. We've seen, Justin Sun. We've seen CZ. I would say of these guys, Charles Hoskinson, even if he's one of the smartest, I think he rubs people the wrong way. But yeah, great concept. Execution isn't quite there, and I don't see Ada making a comeback. Although for a long time, if you ask me the strongest cults in the game, pre-memes, it would be XRP and Cardano. But yes, the next one I brought, I want to touch on quickly. But just for the sake of discussing forks, as we recently discussed forks for Bitcoin because of the quantum threat, can we quickly touch on Bitcoin Cash? And I don't think this is the type of asset someone's buying because they want it to run like crazy. That's not the point of it. But tell me about Bitcoin Cash's place in the crypto ecosystem.
Yeah, it's actually been performing quite well, like, I mean, on a relative basis compared to Bitcoin and the rest of the crypto market. And the idea of a Bitcoin Cash is that it's much more quantum resilient in a sense that, so the problem with quantum with Bitcoin is not that there are no solutions, it's that to implement that solution, you need to coordinate and adopt the update. So to adopt the updated code, okay? And the Bitcoin community, they are maximalist, right? So we call them Bitcoin maxis. So no forks, no upgrades, immutability, and the code is law. So these are, the core principles they follow. And the Bitcoin Cash is actually the opposite, right? So it was a community who was like pro updates. They were like, okay, let's grow this platform. Let's not stick religiously to like old ways, and let's increase the block size and make Bitcoin a P2P cash rather than a digital gold. So these are more like a pro change community. So if you want to hedge, for example, like if you say, okay, there is a quantum threat and you think that Bitcoin community might not coordinate fast enough to adopt quantum resilient, algorithms to protect the network, then you would hedge that with the community that actually was so good at coordination and was like so pro changes. So that's why Bitcoin Cash is increasingly treated as a hedge against quantum threat Bitcoin faces. So in case BTC fails in the face of these quantum risks, the alternative would become Bitcoin Cash. Okay. So that's the value proposition of Bitcoin Cash.
No, it's very interesting. I think with Bitcoin Cash, it's one of those things where if you're a hardcore Bitcoin, I would say Bitcoin maxi, as you said, but I think just someone who believes in the original vision for what Bitcoin was, and I guess still is, Bitcoin Cash is just its own thing. It's different. I think for me, when I look at these forks and these quote unquote improvements, like if we click back here, they talk about it being, where's it gone? It talks about it being an improvement, an upgrade. When you talk like this and you start making it an upgrade, a tech thing, you move away from the philosophy behind it. Now, Bitcoin isn't perfect, right? It has issues, but people look past that because they believe in the vision or the idea of it. As soon as you start to say, we're going to upgrade this and make it better by increasing, the security or increasing, the total block size or have a better scaling plan, you immediately open yourself up for competition. I don't think it's as relevant for Bitcoin Cash in particular, but I do think when you go across different sectors in crypto, like privacy or layer ones or layer twos, you run into that problem where suddenly if you start to make, the technology your big selling point, you open the door for people to come by and absolutely blow past you. But yeah, Bitcoin Cash. I don't know. I guess the all-time high question abroad, could it reach an all-time high again, or are we not seeing that? I
Um,
don't think
Based
so.
on this chart, not likely, but again, it will reach all-time highs if Bitcoin dies, I think, and the thesis on hedging actually plays out. So the people who are buying Bitcoin Cash right now, and if you see, like, if you go past that, spike, it's been on an uptrend. One,
Yeah.
two, three, after the fourth spike.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Okay. I know what you mean. Yeah. Yeah. No, true. I think we're just going to see a different fork, right? I think they will have to eventually fork Bitcoin. And I think the institutions and these huge players will lead the charge. And I do think ultimately you will have people who insist on sticking to the original vision, but you probably will have a new Bitcoin that everyone just all collectively decides is the Bitcoin, like whatever, even if it's a derivative. But Bitcoin Cash, I think, is got a place. It's been here since I was here. And yeah, it's interesting. Bro, I'm not going to go into
Yeah.
this, or we will never finish. We've already discussed Chainlink. Some of these just don't interest me in the slightest. We've already went over Monero. We've discussed Chainlink. I'm trying to see if anything else sticks to me. Um, AVAX, Litecoin, they've been around for a long time. Any comments on these two?
I think Avalanche is just a promising tech that never got adopted. They were bad at marketing. Solana, like personally, last cycle, I thought Avalanche is gonna be like what Solana did last cycle. So I was betting on Avalanche because the tech was so good. The way they constructed the vision was so good, like tokenization, subnets, and all this technology was very cool. Like I was betting on Avalanche actually, but then they were what got bad is that they were not really good at marketing. Like Solana community is just super good at marketing. They do degen stuff. They're crazy on timelines. They are like rage baiting everyone, so they get the attention, and that's how like they got the adoption they got. Um, and Avalanche just I think failed on that front. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So they couldn't bring attention to their chain. But overall, technology was super good. I was like, I loved the whole like subnet
Yeah.
series.
Yeah, absolutely. No, I like Avalanche too. I did hold Avalanche at one point. I think as we've gone through a bunch of these, I think there's just too many competitors. There's too many people doing the same thing, and there's too many. This first scalar advantage, right? Solana, Ethereum, they're massive, and I think you're going to have a hard time trying to catch up and compete with those titans. And then even this second kind of order, when you've got AVAX, we've already went over some of these others as well. Further up, we went over ADA, you've got Tron, just too many. And if you are someone who's looking to build an altcoin portfolio, I just think you have to be careful not to over diversify, and especially don't over diversify within sectors. If you want to get an alternative layer one outside of Ethereum, Solana, etc., make your pick. Get Tron, get AVAX, or get ADA. It's up to you. Of the three, personally, I find Tron the most interesting. But yeah, you can't have all of them. It just doesn't make sense. Litecoin abroad. Litecoin is one of those OG tokens too. It's been around for a very long time. I think
I
a
don't
lot of
like
the use
Litecoin
case.
to be honest. It
Yeah, me
just
neither.
I think it's just an asset. Like the thing is, once any token passes certain market cap, it becomes a tradable asset, right? So once, like, even if it's like completely useless thing, people want tickers to trade against each other, like PvPing each other. So I think Litecoin is one of those kind of assets where like big players, hedge funds, they bet against each other. They try to short squeeze or long squeeze each other. So they just trade and try to how do I say extract value from the competitors like other hedge funds. So I think Litecoin is that type of asset.
Yeah.
It's not useful. It just just a ticker for
Yeah,
me.
yeah. Its use case is just not there anymore. It was relevant 10 years ago. You've just got better solutions now, which is what I mentioned about any project which is trying to make itself about the tech. You better stay ahead of ahead of the rest, or you'll get eaten up in no time. That's what I like about meme coins, as they're not trying to compete in that manner. They're just trying to entertain. And when you have altcoins out there like Hype or some of these Goliaths like Ethereum, Solana, I just think most of these alts are nonsense. Where we've come and said, honestly, alt season isn't happening. Guys, respectfully, you can't really point out any decent altcoin here. You know, if you want to consider everything but Bitcoin an altcoin, then sure, you've got Ethereum, BNB, you know, Solana, then you'll have naturally XRP, Tron, etc. Doge will have a spot. Hype, we're bullish as hell on Hype. We've covered it so much. Definitely, I think this belongs up here, and it will inevitably get there. But then look, it's hard for us to get behind an alt because they just don't look too interesting. Bro, we had a guy come in. He spoke about Sui. He knows who he is if he's watching. For Inner Circle, we pretty much told him he needs to bin it. So give us a little rundown on Sui as well, why you don't like it.
It's a VC coin, and
Simple as that,
I
right?
don't see any adoption there. And I think it's all the attention that they've got is, um, is from marketing. Like again, you might argue that marketing is the only thing that matters to get XRP, blah blah blah. But ultimately, if you value it as a layer one blockchain, Sui doesn't. It's like even at this price, I think it's like super overvalued because no one uses Sui. Everyone uses Solana, either Solana or Ethereum or layer twos at this point. Okay, or like Hyperliquid. They trade on Hyperliquid. So I
Yeah.
don't see a place for Sui in the market. And I think the reason why people bought it is because this heavy marketing and, push from calls. And the chart looks horrible, so
Yeah, terrible chart. Yikes, 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 yikes. I don't think Sui ever reclaims all-time high ever again. Yeah, like you said, it's a VC coin. It's held up. I don't like it at all. Um, yeah, a no-go for me. I'm going to skip Shiba and I'm going to skip Zcash. Zcash and Monero, we've already gone into detail on these assets. They've already had their time. Well, they run. I'm not saying they won't reach all-time highs again, but Monero and Zcash, they're their own beast. Honestly, privacy coin, worth a play. Um, SHIB, same as Doge. I'm not going to touch on it here. That's meme coins. They are altcoins in a way, but they're not traditional altcoins. The same way people are looking for alts, they're your meme play. If you want exposure to the meme coin sector, SHIB or Doge as like a large cap, sure. If you want access to the privacy sector, then yeah, Zcash and Monero. I don't consider them alts in the same way we look at Sui or something like this. For those who aren't aware, stuff like Tether Gold, Pax Gold, etc. These are gold derivatives. Heck, maybe worth a play to be fair, especially if this war continues. I'm not sure if everyone knew this, by the way. You could get exposure to gold literally as a derivative. You can buy the crypto asset equivalent. But yep, keep that in mind. We've already discussed Uni. I'm trying to see names abroad that I've come across over the
Tron is
years.
interesting one.
Yeah, let's touch on Ton. A lot of people talk about Ton to me. Give me the lowdown. It's Telegram, right?
Yeah, Telegram coin. Like a ton is for like the full name is like the open network. So that's why the abbreviation is like ton, TON. So it's a very good, I think it's not well, how do I say, well discussed in a sense. Like, there is not much narrative around it, but Telegram has like massive user base. And
Yeah.
I use Telegram and I recently got the notification saying that, okay, now you can buy equities and commodities using your Telegram wallet, which is super
Wow.
cool, to be honest. Like, like you can, so the adoption is happening. Like my my mom or my father won't be buying gold or equities or whatever using MetaMask, but they both use Telegram. Okay,
Yeah.
they can buy, or like they won't be sending me money using again like Solana's wallet, like Phantom wallet, but they actively use Telegram. And if I ever need money, they will be using, I don't know, or if I need to send them money, I'll be using Telegram wallet to send them money. Okay, so it will be instantaneous and it's like well regulated, I believe, in certain parts of the world. But like the only issue is that they have the founder has like legal issues in Europe, the
Yeah,
Pavel Durov.
Pavel.
Yeah, Pavel Durov. But in a sense, like actually, I think what can bring NFTs back is actually Tron. Okay,
I
because
can
they
see
have these
this.
stickers
Yeah.
which are very popular on Telegram. And for the first time, you actually make that stickers like NFT, and every time someone uses, you can claim royalty on the NFT you've created. Because then you would have incentives to actually, you know, create more cool stuff, and then you can get paid for creating cool stuff. Okay.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. I think Toncoin's great. I like
I would
Pavel's.
give it yellow, to be
Yeah, I'd give it
honest.
yellow. Like, look, guys, I'm not gonna lie, it's hard to say, yeah, this thing's gonna bounce to like $9. It's hard for me to say that. And that's the big issue that we're having when we're discussing some of these altcoins. I know a lot of you, you want it because of price. And some of these prices, things just went so crazy back in the day that it's hard to reach some of these heights again, especially when you've pulled back this hard, right? This is a big pullback. I agree with Abro. I think overall it's a cool asset. Abro's a student, by the way, guys, which is why he needs his parents to send him money. So, Abro, does the supply and the diluted value versus the markets, does any of this stick out to you negatively?
Yeah, it's actually very negative, to be honest.
Yeah.
I
So,
think
so
that's why
this is
price
no good.
tanked. Yeah, I think that's why probably price tanked because of, it's relatively low FTV, like low float, high FTV token. So half of the, like from my, you know, I think roughly half is like locked, still not
Mm.
vested. And this is generally not a good thing because, there's a lot of supply overhang. Uh, so yeah, that's very negative, to be honest.
Yeah, yeah. I think it's interesting if they find a better way to integrate the asset into the Telegram ecosystem, as Abro said, with the stickers, it's relevant. We run advertisements, not on Telegram right now, but when we did consider running Telegram ads, you have to pay for your ads in Ton, which was one of the reasons I was like, okay, maybe I need to buy some Ton. But if they can better leverage the importance of Ton within their products ecosystem, I think this can go crazy. But it's kind of, they say in the UK, you rob Peter to pay Paul. And it's like, if you do that, you're just damaging Telegram. So yeah, I don't know. I give it a yellow flag, but I like Telegram as a whole. I like Pavel. I think this is a problem. The FTV, I wouldn't touch it, but it's better than the others. Like I would choose Ton
Yeah,
over Litecoin, over
Cardano.
Sui, 100%, Cardano, absolutely. Yeah, I'm trying to see anything else stick out to me. Uniswap, we've covered. BitSensor, Tau, we've discussed this before, haven't we, bro?
Yeah. BitTensor is um, AI focused network essentially, and it allows different um, GPUs to run models, and essentially it provides infrastructure for AI agents. I think it could be very interesting, and the chart actually looks like it's breaking out. So this was one of the assets on my watch list for trade. Um, and it's getting kind of mind share on the on social media. So this one I think is probably very good in the short term.
Yeah, it's very interesting. I'm just going to quickly open up a bunch of the assets in the rest of the top 100 that stick out to me. And I'll touch why. And I'll give different reasons and I'll let you comment on each of those. There's a lot, damn. I love going through this. This is bringing back some
Oh,
phenomenal memories. There was one that I missed earlier. Where's it gone? Give me a second. Okay, World Liberty Financial abroad. Talk to me about this.
um,
Trumps.
don't touch it, you'll get rocked. Okay, can I
I
summarize
agree.
it this
I
way? Yeah,
agree. Especially if we lose it, if Trump loses his midterms, this is gonna
you're
all the
cooked.
way back down. You're cooked.
Only
Um,
20%, 28% circulating.
like that's
So
insane. That's
yeah,
insane. Terrible. Stay away. We'll work in return. Um, you covered this. Aster. So Perpdex, what is this abroad? Hyperliquid if we were not hyped about it?
yeah. I think the value proposition of Aster is that okay. I'll start from uh, from the good stuff. Okay, so the value proposition unique value proposition of Aster. So it allows, or at least like I think it hasn't implemented that, but they've been working on private pools. So CZ was pushing these private pools. So the problem with like Hyperliquid and other perp decks is that you can't trade in size because every time you do, it's visible on the blockchain, right? So anyone can track you. So with private pools and the unique value proposition of Aster, so you can take trades anonymously so that you don't reveal your books, and that's very important for large hedge funds and trading desks. So that's the value proposition. But I think it's a very low float token. They do have buybacks and they do have like a decent revenue, but comparatively, I don't see an edge here, like a long-term moat against likes of Hyperliquid or even like, you know, um, other perpdex platforms. So I'm not bullish on it. I remember it was a thing back in the day, like everyone was asking for me and I was like, oh, this doesn't look good, this doesn't look good, and they were not agreeing with me. But the UI UX was kind of very bad. I remember testing it and I was like, after 2 days of testing, I wrote a market post or something like that, saying that, okay, this, doesn't look that good. So yeah, this is my take on Aster.
Yeah, I agree. I think it was a great narrative play. When things kicked off, everyone was interested in the Perplex narrative. I think Hype's a leader in this. I think, you will have a cultish community around Aster. People can be very biased, especially the people who are still holding, right? And I'm sure
Yeah.
people are using the platform. Prefer
And it
Hyperliquid.
has CZ's backing, so that's important to remember because you might not like the assets, but ultimately we are here to make money. So if anything, just
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. So yeah, if you, for whatever reason, can't buy Hyperliquid, but you want exposure to the perp narrative, Aster could be a pick. I wanted to pull up AAVE abroad for a couple of reasons. We just spoke about MORPHO. Was it MORPHO?
yeah,
Or we
more
spoke
for
about
more.
MORPHO, which is similar. I use AAVE personally when it comes to, earning some yield on my USDT. And we're integrating Aave into the Cryptonary platform. For those who aren't aware, we are launching C3, which is basically our first steps into the world of Web3. It's where we are integrating the lending markets, staking markets, liquidity pools, swapping, on-ramp, off-ramp, the works. And one of the platforms in which we're going to allow people to tap into the lending markets is Aave. I was actually sent by one of the team members of Bro, I think you read it too, a little deep dive into Aave, and we were considering doing a dedicated piece on it. Give me the lowdown. I like Aave. I think if someone wants an alt for this, if someone wants to be different, you want to be that guy, which is why you're here watching this video, to have a bunch of different tokens that no one else is holding. I think Aave is a nice asset. What do you think?
Yeah. I have like a more context and like more unique insights on Aave, like relative to that deep dive. I think one of the biggest things they've accomplished recently is they figured out this equity versus token structure. And I think that that's the reason why many DeFi tokens and altcoins don't perform well, because the teams have like equity and also the token. So they don't know like how to distribute the value across like equity and the token. And there was a big debate between the Aave DAO community and the Aave team members in like solving this issue, aligning incentives. So, and then they figured out the structure. I think now 100% of Aave's revenue will be used to buy back the Aave token. So, so I think that was big win. So they reached consensus on how like how does it direct value between the equity and the DAO. Other than that, it's probably the biggest lending market, and I think if you compare the TVL with the assets under management of like different banks, so Aave would probably be like, if I'm not mistaken, 11th biggest bank in the world, which is
Huge.
quite huge. You know what I mean? Like, so Aave is competing with like JP Morgan and Morgan Stanley and all these big
Yeah.
banks.
How does Ghost token lead into this, bro?
So Go is just a stable coin they launched.
Simple. And you're getting nearly 5%. It's more
Yeah.
than a bond, right?
Yeah. It's more
So
than a bond.
more than a
It's a
bond.
stable coin.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's interesting, obviously. So look, if we're just being objective, right now on your USDC, they're only giving you 1.6, 1.75 Ghost. Do you trust Ghost? Is it big enough for you to say, you know what, I'll hold Go and earn interest on that rather than depositing USD? See, what's
It's
your thought on
experimental. I
that?
think it's like 1 year or 2 year old, the
Mm,
stablecoin. So I trust more like USDT and USDC because like they are decades old.
yeah,
Um,
yeah.
but overall, I think ultimately, as the crypto market matures, I would favor algorithmic stablecoins like Go and um, uh, USDS. You know
Yes, yes, yes.
the syrup. It's called like
Syrup, yeah, I think we'll
yeah.
probably see it here in a second.
Um, so make a DAOs like stablecoin and all these. I think I would favor them because they are not. You don't have like centralized counterparty. But I think that's the long-term vision. I think still in the coming future we'll see the dominance of like USDC and USDT. But ultimately, I think if they take over, that would be better for the industry, in my opinion.
Yeah, yeah, I'm trying to look at the like the main market. Where do I go on this to see the
You
main
go
market?
to borrow.
Borrow now. Okay, yes, 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 yes. Okay. Yeah, okay, USDS here. Okay, not quite. Yeah, guys, we're building all of this into Cryptonary. Wow, very low yields right now, bro. What's causing such low yield? Is it the market being so risk off?
Yeah, exactly.
Insane.
Which is counterintuitive, right? So when the yields are so low, you have incentives to up your leverage, right? Because you can borrow for like cheap and go long on like assets. But people don't do that. People actually do the opposite. When the yields are high, they go like risk on and try to leverage long and stuff like that.
Mm,
So ultimately, it's actually a good idea, like if you manage the risk properly, to start building your positions when the yields are low, lending yields are low. So I started looking. So Tom looks at funding rates, and I started telling him, "Hey, let's look at the borrowing markets and borrowing rates as a gauge of risk on and risk off, and the leverage ratio in the market." Right now, there is no leverage whatsoever. Like 3% to borrow. That's like for crypto, it's like unheard of.
yeah, no, I agree. Very interesting, very true. But yeah, if we circle back, I like Aave a lot. But I use the product. So once again, the same way I play around with Hype, Hyperliquid, I like Hype and I like Aave. Does Kamino doesn't have a token yet, does it,
Yeah,
bro?
it has a token, but like in terms of tokenomics, it isn't good because they're still
Mm,
using their tokens as incentives, and it's a
yeah,
governance tokens.
yeah,
So
that's the problem.
yeah, back to your question when you said what institutions are likely to buy next. Like I could see them buying Aave, to be honest.
Yeah, me too. Me too, me too. I can see that they want to, they're almost, they're not buying for a trade as like the average guy would. They're buying ownership. They're buying it the same way they buy a company to have influence and
Yeah,
there
yeah,
for the
yeah.
long run. And I think these look, man, there are a lot of great apps out there. Yes, for all the hyperliquids out there and the pumps that are revenue generating, fair play to them. They've done tokenomics right and they're great. But for some of these other assets, like the Caminos, like you look at stuff like JUP, you look at Uni, they're not the best when it comes to tokenomics. And that's the hardest part for you guys, to be honest, when you're watching, when you come to a video and you want to know what altcoins are worth buying and when is alt season coming. It's hard to say, but I gotta shoot straight with you guys. Most of these altcoins, even if they've got a cool product, they don't have the best tokenomics. And for years at Cryptonary, we tried to present tokens that were tied to great products. But we've just seen time and time again, it just doesn't always sync up. Aave, though, if you're going to hold an altcoin, we think the product's great. Kamino, that's disappointing about them. But yeah, I see what you mean. They're talking about their allocations and stuff. But yeah, Aave, pretty cool. Aster, we've addressed. Okay, look, pump, controversial pump. They are, look, a bro likes pump. I personally don't for a multitude of reasons, but it's not down to the price per se or the trade opportunity. So, Abro, give me the lowdown, especially from a trade perspective. Why do you like pump in the short term, even long
No,
term?
again, charting wise, if you look, it's the same story like across many altcoins. So higher low, higher low, higher low, and they are all pressing against resistance. That means it's trying to break out, and when it breaks out, I think it will, like lots of like altcoins will, like if BTC rallies, puts a new relief rally, I think it will break out. I like Pump Fund, to be honest, like for many reasons. First of all, like they are the second biggest profitable business in crypto. Like, they've done billions in revenue, and they've bought back almost like 400 million dollars of the token, and they keep buying 1.2, 1.3 million dollars of the token every day.
Yeah,
Okay. And they've already bought more than 10% of the total supply. So bought back and burnt more than 10. And they almost bought back 30% of the circulating supply. I feel like it could be how do I say, a short squeeze. The only thing is, again, everything is tied to BTC. Okay, so BTC shits itself. Uh,
yeah,
Nothing survives in general. Um, and also, it's very cool that they are, how do I say, they're expanding to Ethereum, by the way, to Ethereum and Base, and I think also Mantle. And it's just interesting to see that despite meme narrative being dead and we being completely risk off, Casino still keeps printing despite every bad news there is, legal actions, founder, like,
yeah,
uh, you know, like even at worst, it's still like the second best revenue generating protocol. And if you compare multipliers, it's very undervalued in my opinion, because it trades at 2x or 3x of the revenue. In the meantime, like probably it's like 5x compare, like if you go with like FDV. And in the meantime, if you go hype, if you look at the hype, it trades at like 35
yeah,
uh, to earnings. So like you see the discrepancy. That's
yeah,
why
for
like
sure,
I
for
got
sure.
interested. Like, okay, I was like, okay, that this looks interesting.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And obviously, from an earnings point of view, it's definitely undervalued when you look at the hype ratio. I just think hype is its own animal. It's
Safer.
an anomaly. Yeah, yeah, and it's safer. It's its own animal. It has a different user. It's got a different value proposition to the world. Whereas Pump is a casino. You know they do make money. They're good, but it's different to building Wall Street on chain.
Yeah,
So.
yeah,
Pump. Okay, cool. I just want to quickly, we'll go through a few more as this stream's gone pretty long. Bonk. Bonk's funny as Bonk's a meme coin. I don't think is going anywhere. Top dog. Sorry, whiff guys. But yeah, Bonk is top dog as of now. They're one of the first meme coins that fully embraced trying to bring in utility. They have lots of products out there like BonkBot, etc. Um, I would never buy Bonk personally, but I actually, to be fair, small anecdote. The way I got into memes is when Cryptonary first stumbled upon Popcat and Whiff, I was very hesitant on meme coins. But I felt like, you know what? If we're going to write about meme coins, I'm going to get on board with them. We're going to cover them. I should have some skin in the game. Like I should get invested into meme coins. It didn't make sense ethically to cover meme coins, but not buy any. So I opened up one of my Solana wallets and I'm like, okay, fine. I'm going to put a small bag into Whiff and in Popcat. And I opened my wallet, I bought a couple of $1,000s of Bonk. I'm like, I never bought Bonk. And I check, and it was like part of that early stage, like one of the airdrops from Bonk very, very early. And then I rotated my Bonk half into Whiff and Popcat. And that was a huge, incredible ROI for me. So very biased, absolutely. But thankful for Bonk. Um,
yeah.
Bro, VeChain, I'm a UFC fan. I watch the UFC. VeChain are one of these companies that have been marketing them with them for years. Another dead token ever coming back?
I don't think it will ever come back. I think the value proposition of VChain was like this supply chain tracking, which is very promising because I studied logistics and supply chain for my undergrad, and that's how I came into crypto, because I saw the value proposition of blockchain in the supply chain. but I think the execution is bad, and despite the concept being good, and I don't think it's a good asset to hold long term.
Yeah, I agree. I agree. Okay, cool. That's VeChain. I got Aptos and I got Filecoin, but to be honest with you, I more pulled them because they were familiar names. I actually don't think there's anything interesting to talk about. I did want to talk about Arbitrum, and we haven't got Optimism here. Bro, what happened to these things when Vitalik come out and said perhaps layer two was
Oh,
not the
yeah.
vision? That was rough for
Yeah.
these assets. And we have an affinity with ARB. Like we got the ARB airdrop. And a lot of members made really good money. I got the ARB airdrop, which was great. I wrote an article on Arbitrum versus Optimism years ago, around the time of launch. But I don't think these things are coming back, bro. What's your take?
Yeah, I think, yeah, Vitalik had just admitted like the whole this L2 roadmap, L2 thesis was wrong. And the Ethereum mainnet can scale without them essentially. So it's already scalable and it will continue to be like more scalable over years because they will upgrade the software continuously. The validators will upgrade their hardware, and it will just continue scaling. And the whole this L2 narrative doesn't make much sense unless layer two specialize in like small little things like Lighter does. Okay, so Lighter is also an L2, but focus on perps and like being a trading platform. Okay, it could be a L2 focused on privacy. It could be a L2 focused on options. Derive, one of the assets, like I think I like the most, but it's already pumped. You haven't been following. But because the HIP4, I kind of dismissed Derive because I think eventually I'll be right. But I've been looking at the Derive like four year. I think I talked about it like a year ago. Like, so it was on my watch list and it recently pumped very hard. But I still can't make the case like when the Hyperliquid has like HIP4, like why would you have like a platform like an option? So what I'm trying to say, they are L2 focused on options market. So they're specializing all of them. So L2s make sense only if they specialize like that, but not as a general purpose blockchains like Base, Arbitrum, or
Yeah.
Optimism. So that's what Vitalik is saying, and I agree with him. And I think Solana people were telling about it for years. And after Vitalik post, I think it dropped like 20%, that day. And yeah,
Yeah. Tricky, 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 but true. I agree with it. Bro, we just went through the top 100 altcoins and the market. We went through all of them. I think we made a lot of people very sad, and there's going to be a lot of upset people who are
sorry.
holding these alts. But I think it was necessary too. There's a lot of people come to us at Crypto all the time and say, when alt season or what altcoin should we buy? And a lot of people get upset too when we say, look, we're in the majors, hype, and we like a couple of meme coins. People don't want to hear that. They want you to tell them about some super undervalued um, L3, super DeFi token that has massive upside. But trust me, as someone who's been in the game for a long time, you can't always connect the value of the product with the trading value at that time. And in crypto, there's a lot of nonsense products out there. That's why we like meme coins. That's why we're attracted to them. Is everyone has a vision. People are trying to tokenize air and water, and you can't fall for that. There was a NFT and a token called Steppen, and it
Yeah.
monetized walking. I played around with it for some educational purposes for Cryptonary. And there's some great concepts out there, guys, but if the tokenomics don't line up, you just got to stay away. As far as altcoins and alt seasons, what we're buying, um, look, hype's great. If you want to get exposure to an exchange token, you've got something like BNB. With privacy, if you want, keep in mind all of this is if you want. I'm not holding these. I hold hype. I don't hold the others. If you want a privacy coin, you've got Monero, you've got Zcash. If you want an alternative layer one, you've got stuff like Tron. If you want something unique and a bit different, you've got Toncoin. If you want a meme coin, a large one, you've got DOGE, you've got SHIB, etc. And yeah, I would say if you are interested in forking, don't buy them, but definitely look into Ethereum Classic and look into Bitcoin Cash, etc. And yeah, if you want something super speculative and more of a trade, but still interesting revenue generating, you've got Pump. So yeah, Link is also a great asset. Uni, MORPHO, Zero, as we've seen, all interesting. But if I'm being honest with you, I would buy them for the sake of buying them, but I'm not, if you know what I mean. I could, I see the benefit, but I'm not. I just see more upside in stuff like hype and then particular meme. You guys know what I'm talking about. And yeah, the majors. I just think maybe the majors are undervalued compared to the value of some of these alts. So yeah, bro, that's my take. I wouldn't really buy many of these. If I had to, those are the ones I'd buy. Yeah, any final comments?
Not really. Yeah, I think it's important to be selective if you want to perform the market, and this is where like you probably will need to do a ton of research, and or you can just outsource them, outsource doing research. Um, I think the broad altcoin season won't be back, but selective definitely will be back when you have like risk on environments, you'll have like a pockets of outperformance, and that would be your alt seasons. I think we need to redefine what alt season means now.
Agree.
So
Yeah.
imagine like if BTC goes to 90K like tomorrow, like alts will rip, but not every alt, but selective alts like will just rip. So that's would be an alt season. And I think the altcoin market will still survive and it's not dead, but it just like 99% won't just pump. It will be probably like 10 of them that will perform. And you need to find those 10. And I think, yeah, we covered like,
I think
we
we
cover
landed
them
on
pretty
about,
much
yeah, we covered
consistently.
all of
Like,
them. And I think we gave, like, if you look at our green and yellow flags, there were quite a few. There's probably 5 to 10 green and yellow flags out there. If you really want to build an altcoin portfolio, that's the play. If you want to get a bit more hands-on and you want to see the exact things that Cryptonary has, check out C Pro. We show the alts we're invested in. If you're smart, you can kind of gather which ones we mentioned. We mentioned them all on this call. And if you want to know how we're allocating, percentage-wise, etc., that's where the inner circle comes in. But bro, thank you very much. Appreciate the time. Thank you everyone for watching. And yeah, see you on the next stream. Joms, we can cut it there.